Welcome to episode 2 of the Gaia Awakening Teachings. I am your guide, Darren Hall, and I'm very happy to be here today to dive into a deep subject that's very close to my heart and soul, what I'm calling the Gnostic Renaissance. So let's just take a moment here at the beginning to just center ourselves. So just take a nice centering breath. You can close your eyes. Deep breath in and sighing out. And then just taking your awareness into the center of your chest, into your holy heart, which, as we will explore today, is the seat of what is known as Gnosis. Seeing your heart shining bright like a blessed star, and seeing that light just raying out to every part of your being. Coming back to your space. So thank you oh so much for joining me today, and this is a very relevant and important topic, the Gnostic Renaissance, because we are alive in a time of great shifting of ages. This time has been prophesized the world over by mystic sages, prophets, as a time of change, of holy shift. And one of the things that I believe is one of the big themes of this new age, this new earth that we're just starting to venture into, is what is known as a revival, a reflowering, or a renaissance of Gnosticism. And a lot of people probably know this word agnostic. And this is also a sign of the distortion that has happened in our language, that some of these words have completely dropped away from our modern vernacular. But the word Gnostic or Gnosis doesn't really reach people all that much, but agnostic does. So agnostic, most people will know, means I believe in God, but I don't believe I can know God, which is very interesting. Whereas a Gnostic is someone who knows God and believes they can directly know God within their own being, in their own consciousness. So where did this all come from? So the Gnostics were an ancient, it wasn't a sect, it wasn't even a religion. It was kind of like the label yogi. To be a Gnostic meant that you had probably trained in mystic arts, where you had a very clear channel to your own intuition, to your own inner knowing. In a lot of ways, I see Gnosticism as one of the bedrocks of spirituality, because one of the arcs of spiritual evolution is awakening to the stunning and amazing fact that you have all of the answers that you need within yourself. And it doesn't mean just you. It means that within you, there is a conduit for divine revelation to emerge. And this is not a new teaching, but it is being reflowered, which is the name Renaissance means. It is being reflowered right now on the planet for a very, very important reason. So the Gnostics were not particularly a religion. In fact, John Lamb Lash, who's a great inspiration for me in the Gnostic studies, says that Gnosticism is not a religion, it's an alternative to religion. Because religion, as we know it in our modern era, is these monolithic systems that are built up, where you have these authority figures, this, if we want to use the Judeo-Christian or the Christian Vatican idea, you have these papal figures, the Pope, the bishops, and then the priests. And they are told to us to be these emissaries between humanity and the divine. They do this bridge work between those two worlds. Yet in the ancient world, they had much freer systems, such as what was found in the mystery schools. You still had priests and you still had priestesses, and they served very important functions as ceremonialists, as keepers of knowledge and wisdom. Yet it was about initiating others so that they can be their own emissaries to the divine so that they could be in divine knowing themselves. A very interesting thread where we see historically what happened to this spirit of Gnosticism, which became highly suppressed by the church and religion at large, is found in the Old Testament, which is the story of Adam and Eve in Genesis in the Garden of Eden. Now, interestingly, certain Gnostic texts that were discovered later, because a lot of Gnostics became so persecuted because they refused to abide by this kind of authoritarian dictum where people themselves weren't sovereign. They weren't given the skills and the education to become authority onto themselves. They always had to outsource that, project it in this codependency on this hierarchy structure of spiritual powers, such as the priestly caste. And so certain Gnostic texts that were probably found in the mystery schools, which were the ancient schools of spirituality of antiquity, were buried. A lot of them were burned, like the Library of Alexandria. A lot of us don't really understand or know in our history that there was a great purge of anyone who was antagonistic, who did not want to believe the dictums of the church. In fact, by 200 AD in the Roman Christian Empire, if you identified yourself as a pagan, which was an indigenous European or indigenous person who was probably more in touch with this kind of Gnostic pulse, it was punishable by death. It's so severe what happened. So a lot of this natural mystical elements in our culture were expunged, were exiled from us under great violence and persecution. So a lot of these texts went missing or were hidden or just destroyed. Now it's interesting that in some of these texts, some of the Gnostic texts that have been recovered, they actually allude to how the serpent in the Garden of Eden story is not seen as this villain or this enemy. The serpent is actually seen as a symbol of the goddess. And this serpent may have been the goddess Sophia herself, the wisdom goddess who is our universal mother. And it is said that she was attempting to liberate Adam and Eve from the domination, the authoritarian domination of what the Gnostics perceived as the false god. And this is one of the most controversial and outrageous teachings that you find in the ancient Gnostic texts, that they see the Old Testament God as being a false god who was distorting and manipulating humanity. And one of the central ways that distortion took place, that manipulation took place, was cutting off humanity from their gnosis, from their divine knowing, to make us subservient to these false authority figures outside of ourselves. Hence, in the Garden of Eden, the tree of Gnosis, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, Adam and Eve were censored or banned from partaking of communing with this tree and being empowered into their Gnosis. So it is said through the Gnostic perspective that the goddess showed up as a kind of rescue mission and initiated Adam and Eve into Gnosis by eating of this sacred fruit of the tree, which then, of course, incurred the great wrath of the false, what was called the Demiurge, the Lord Archon. Archons were seen to be these kind of mischievous, antagonistic entities. Some might call them demonic. This is all part of the worldview of the Gnostics, who are working against the evolution of humanity. And this Lord Archon, the leader of them, witnessed this and then banished Adam and Eve from the garden before they could then eat of this. There was another tree in the Garden of Eden known as the tree of immortality, where we could have immortal life. So you start to see that there was this battle, this war on human consciousness, very old war from the get-go. And this is one of the greatest ancient wounds of humanity, is that we've been cut off from having our own sovereign, independent connection with the divine ourselves. And in the ancient world, there was the mystery schools, which I've mentioned, which were the spiritual schools where these Gnostic techniques were empowered. You would go through initiation ceremonies. You would study a lot of psychic and occult training so that you could become a more and more clearer channel for this divine knowledge so that you could be self-governing, and so that you could also defend yourself psychically from the Archons, who were said to attack the mind, the consciousness of humanity, by implanting us with false beliefs. Now, if one is cut off from their divine gnosis, their divine ascertaining of truth, and that constant flow of wisdom that is said to be flowing through the heart, then of course we are much easier to manipulate. And this is what happened throughout the ages as this kind of archontic authoritarian system got further institutionalized through the religions, and then through a lot of colonial violence. Humanity basically had to follow these dictums, or else severe consequences, mortal consequences. And so a lot of this Gnostic mysticism went underground, but it would constantly reflower because it's just the natural beauty of the human condition to be in this rapport with the divine. It's such a beautiful thing to receive insights and revelations such as what we find in meditation. So in episode 1, if you go back and watch that, we talked a lot about mastering consciousness through presence and meditation. And these are kind of the 101 lesson of becoming a Gnostic, is learning to discern your consciousness when you can sort of feel into, is something false or is something true? And it's something that you can feel in your bodies. And this was one of the other challenges that happened as religion became more institutionalized and became coupled with forces of empire, and the whole world became colonized on these false belief systems, is that they were also about cutting us off from the somatic experience of our bodies, because they realized that truth is something that you feel. It's a gut feeling, it's a heart feeling, it's something vibrational, it's something deep in your essence. And we are born with all these incredible sensitivities to be able to feel truth. And that's how we know truth. It's not necessarily something that just happens intellectually. It's something that happens on a vibrational level when we feel truth. John Keats, this beautiful pastoral poet, who I believe was Irish, said a few centuries ago, one of my kind of mantras for my guidance and my North Star in life. And he said, "Truth is beauty, beauty is truth. That is all ye need to know in this mortal world." And I love that, because my experience has been, when I'm living in more presence, when I'm more in touch with that Gnostic channel, the oracle of my heart, and I receive divine revelation, I can usually tell that it's divine revelation because it feels beautiful. And that may sound superficial or confusing to those who haven't experienced it, but I urge you, the more you live a spiritual life in presence, seeking the answers within yourself through meditation, through contemplation, through reflection, I am quite sure that you will join the many leagues of other sagacious and mystical humans in feeling that beautiful vibration of truth. It cannot be ignored. But through the Dark Ages, through the unfolding of these colonial religions, we were cut off from our bodies. And one of the large ways that happened, and this is going back to that story in Genesis again, when Adam and Eve fell, this false story that we were told we fell, we betrayed God. The first thing that happened is we hid our naked bodies in shame, which was the ancient sexual wound. We saw our bodies, the human condition, as something imperfect, shameful, and that caused a great betrayal of our nature, which caused the collective insanity that we see in our world now, because we are a species that has been struck with deep psychological wounding that has not been healed until perhaps now en masse. We have this great opportunity with this renaissance of all this ancient wisdom coming back to be activated, ignited into new octaves of embodiment and understanding. So this idea of the body, that this is why a lot of spiritual practices talk about purification of the body and the mind, so that we can be more clearer channels for this divine gnosis, this divine knowledge. So that's part of the work that we have to do. And to get even more mystical, and this is diving, deeper into the Gaia sort of mythology that I follow. It is said that, planet Earth is this living goddess, Sophia, and Sophia fell from this galactic center to turn into a planet to give humanity life. This is the ancient mystery school teachings on what planet Earth is. And it is said that in her kind of fallen state from what was known as the Pleroma, the galactic center, she's in a state of disharmony and is in need of what the Gnostics called correction. And I believe that humanity, as conduits between the heavens and earth, we play a huge role in supporting her harmonization, which then symbiotically will harmonize us and harmonize our evolution. And a lot of that is opening ourselves up to receive, to be conduits for divine energies, divine intelligence, divine wisdom. That is the destiny of humanity. And that destiny is that we are all being initiated right now into being Gnostics once again, to know truth, to know the divine for ourselves. In fact, a lot of the systems that are falling apart right now, the mass media system, for example, which is one of the greatest ways that these Archon deceptions manipulate all of humanity, it is collapsing now. People are turning away from the media as an authority and starting to realize, hey, I can do my own research, I can think for myself, I can know for myself, I can feel for myself what is true. And as we come together, because I really believe truth is teamwork, as we come together more as sovereign entities in conscious communities and start to piece all of this together, because there's a lot to figure out. We have been beset with deceptions, with suppression for so long, so there's all this information and knowledge coming out. And that's why you're seeing this incredible vaulting forward of humans who are becoming very devoted to their wellness, to spirituality, to their evolution right now, because we're realizing, wow, we've been held back from having access to all of this for so long. But it's really about understanding that we are ourselves empowered, powerful beings, and we need to have this kind of connection with our inner Gnosis. It's very, very important. So just as we sort of wrap up this talk, how are some of the ways that we can become more Gnostic? Well, I really recommend going back and watching episode 1, because presence and the practice of living your meditation through presence and just meditation itself, mastering our consciousness, is the most important thing that we can do right now on the planet to become more Gnostic and conduits for divine intelligence. To the point where we are literally so aware moment to moment that we can tell when we kind of get distracted and fall into kind of the fantasies of the past and the future, which is not in reality, and when we can be centered and be truthful. And you will know when you meditate. And there's other ways that we can access Gnosticism, not just through the austerities of meditation. There's also the opposite of austerities, which I would say the ecstatics, ecstatic dancing, making music, sound healing. All of these are means to center ourselves in a very sometimes effulgent way, like dancing on an ecstatic dance floor where you are allowed to freely move the soma of your body, often excavates information from your body and opens you up to be more of a channel. I often bring a journal with me when I ecstatic dance, because I find moving my body, I start to open up all these channels, all the psychic tensions, all this armoring that we're wearing. We're literally, through the diet, through the way that we live, we are constantly pressured to be tight, tight in the body, which is the mind, which is basically closing down from accessing all these channels. Another amazing way to just find yourself in your Gnostic stream is to just go into nature. Because nature, the frequencies, the vibrations there, the pheromones even that you're breathing in from the trees, all of this softens the mind, the body. It makes you more relaxed. And to be a Gnostic is really a yin state. It is a marriage of the masculine and the feminine within. And this is another big context here, that the Gnostic Renaissance is another way that we are exalting and signifying the importance of the divine feminine as that force of reception. Because in the patriarchal world, we've been too interested in active and doing and being more outside of ourselves. But this is really about going into the inner world and receiving information. So dance and music and sound healing, which is something that, is one of my zones of genius. I'm a sound healer. I teach trainings in my Source of Resonance Academy. And, a huge part of sound healing is that when you start to reclaim your voice as a sound healing instrument, not as an instrument to perform or entertain others, but just to vibrate your being, and you learn how to do simple things like the chakra toning exercise, which you can find on my YouTube channel, you start to enthuse your vibrational nature, which again starts to melt the psychic tensions in the body, opening you up. So, for instance, if you do the chakra toning, you can go on my channel and find my chakra toning exercises with 20 minutes with beautiful crystal bowl accompaniment. At the end of sound healing, stay in a seat, or if you're lying down, for 5 minutes, and just be in that openness, that reception, and just patiently wait, and revelations and insights will come. It really is about creating the sacred space, the temple ourselves. So on that note, let's close by just doing a quick little Gnostic exercise. I'm going to throw on my headphones so I can hear more of these ambient sounds that I'm going to trigger for you. So let's close this down in mystical fashion, shall we? So I invite you to just find a beautiful seat, or if you're lying down, and just close down the eyes once again. And let's just do some nice sighing breaths. And sighing, especially if you make it nice and audible, is an amazing way to actually release tensions in the mind and the body. So let's take a nice deep breath in. And sighing out. Beautiful. And again, taking a deep breath in and sighing out. Just take a moment to just scan your body, the soma, and just see if there are any areas in your body that are feeling tense or tight, and just see if you can use your awareness to coax those areas to just let go, soften. We want to be soft when we channel. The Taoists call it discerning the whisper of the heart. That oracle within us speaks in that soft whisper. So we need to be very sensitive to listen and to hear. So just scanning the body lovingly, just relaxing any tendons or muscles that are holding too much. And then when you feel ready, I invite you to bring your awareness into the center of your chest, into your holy heart. And this is the site of Gnosis. This is the seat of the soul. This is where we truly receive and become oracles ourselves. And we're going to do a very simple vocal toning exercise to clear any blockages in the heart so that we can receive insights more gracefully. And that is the vowel sound ah, which many ancient traditions say is a heart medicine sound. So we're just going to make this sound. You can make it the same tone as I do, and just intend to put this sound to direct it into your heart as a kind of clearing and opening sound. So breathe into your heart once again and find a nice, beautiful sigh, just clearing, intending to clear space from the heart. And now let's breathe in and we'll ah. to rest in your heart space and just open to receive any revelations and insights. And if your mind starts to wander and ramble, just keep coming back to the heart and just imagine your heart as this blessed star opening its light to receive divine revelation. And I'll supply some ambient sound healing tones with my voice to just further the peacefulness that will enhance this practice, this Gnostic opening. Insights and revelations you may have received. Beautiful. So, the Gnostic Renaissance is truly upon us, and it is all of our natural divine right to be oracles of wisdom. So, as I like to say, make time for timelessness in your life. Spend more time in the great yin, the divine feminine aspects of your being, nature walking, meditating, contemplating, putting away the technology and the phone, and opening your heart up to receive divine wisdom. It truly is all of our birthright. And this is one of the great zeitgeists, the spirits of the age that we find ourselves in at present, for all of us to become oracles, to become Gnostics once again in this great revival of ancient wisdom. So sending you all infinite love. The light and the darkness in me honors the light and the darkness in you. Namaste, Awen.